Okay guys, welcome to the first interview under SBW_coaching. So it's me, Stevie, and we've got a special guest, Sam Rebane. But just before we get started in this interview, a quick introduction as to what we'll be looking to do with these and why. So basically, one of the main sources of content that we want to use for this channel going forward is interviews. And I understand that for me, as some of you may know, coming from a rugby background, and I'd imagine that a lot of the coaches as well who are following this channel as well, coming from a rugby background. Although I think that one of the biggest things for me I've definitely learned, particularly over the last year, whilst doing my MSc in sports coaching, is that if you're a rugby coach and you're getting all of your learning resources from just rugby, actually you're massively hindering yourself in your development. Because as some of you may know, but a lot of the ideas that come into sport, they come from different sports that other coaches from other sports might be doing already, or particularly as well from businesses. You look at things like Lombardi time, that Vince Lombardi in American football is very famous for, and how that concept came from the military, as well as a lot of our reflective practice tools may come from the medical industry as well. But today we're looking into technical practice. That's going to be the theme of this interview, and I thought that a different way in which we could learn is for bringing down someone not from rugby, but actually a pro golfer in Sam. So, Sam Rebane, welcome to the interview. Just to start with, if you want to tell, I already know a bit about you, but if you want to tell the people watching this about your journey so far.
Cool, right, so it was one of the later passions in my life actually. I'm 26 now, but relative to a lot of other golfers around the world, I started playing golf at about 12, 13, only because being Welsh, you're brought up with a ball in your hand, so you do all sorts of sports growing up, unfortunately, as you do. So, my main thing was football actually growing up, but as you can see, I'm not built for football anymore, but we're going down the putt there. So golf, yeah, around 12, I got a free lesson from a friend, which was really nice, and from that lesson it just took off, and I loved it ever since, really. And throughout my golfing journey so far, I've been to golf college, I've represented Wood against the South Premier teams all around the country. So I played Cardiff University, I played Bournemouth University, I played, with one match we played Birmingham University, and that's where the headquarters of the PGA are anyway. So we played some decent teams. There's a very good standard of golf in that, and also growing up as a junior, I've represented county, and I've done different things with my golf club when I was back in Cambridge. Yeah. And further that now, hence why I'm in the PGA, I wanted to study and build up and try and become a coach like Stevie as a goal, and also play when I can. The Wood course they did also covered that a little bit, so coaching, sports science, all the different things that Stevie's aware of, and other coaches have probably done over the years as well. I've just been supplementing mine in golf and got a Bachelor of Arts out of it, so here I am.
I suppose as well as that, something else for the people watching they might not already know is, so you came out of Wood College, and I think, was it within a year or 2 years that you turned professional? Yeah. as a performer?
Yes.
I suppose we'll get onto more in a minute about how being an elite level athlete and being into coaching, going into coaching, how that might affect your coaching. But to start with, looking at more Sam Rebane, the professional player. So for you, when you play, what are the fundamental skills for golf?
Okay, so like anything with rugby and all sports, it always starts with the basics, so your fundamentals, as they say. In the PGA and what they do, there's a whole range of different things that go on. So the main one we look at before we do anything with the swing is called pre-swing principles. So if I wanted to show you, if you pass me a club, then maybe just show you, it might be easier for the viewers. But so this is a driver, but basically one of the first key principles is grip. So I won't teach you all about the different things, but you've got to get that right. Basically, that's the only thing that connects you to the golf club and hitting golf shots. That's one of the main things we've got to get right. Then other things we look at, ball position. I won't show that, but it's basically where it is relative to the club you're using. So the longer the club, the further away it is, shorter the club, it's nearer to you. Then your posture, so you don't want to be slouched over, you don't want to be standing so straight, you don't want to be looking rigid, it's looking at different shapes like that. And your alignment. Alignment's quite key actually, both for your club face, so where is this pointed, it's going right, guess what, it's going right, point left, go left. So make sure you get that nice and straight. And also your body alignment as well, making sure it all gets in place and you're hitting the right golf shots you want to. And looking at it and why, to teach people the basics to get them right straight away is so important, because a lot of people I see don't have that in place. They just turn up and they look at their swing straight away. The wrong way to go about it. what happens with children is they lose interest and they wonder, why am I not getting any better? Well, I haven't got those things in place.
It's good there as well. You mentioned about the interest for kids, and that's something that we'll be covering in one of the requester questions from one of our viewers at home.
Yeah, adults as well, they'll lose interest as well if they don't see an improvement.
So I suppose we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But you just said about the fundamental skills for golf. What are the fundamental skill development elements of golf? So you've spoken there about the key things you want to learn, but how do you teach them, or how do golfers try and learn that?
So a couple of different ways. I mean, I'm quite fortunate here, as you can see, where we're filming this now is actually in a swing studio. So we can look at all the different fins, all the different data, and assess people what they go. So we've got video technology that shows what they're doing in the golf swing and things like that. In terms of why and going further forward, like you're looking at your grips and things like that, quality of strike with a golf ball. You want to hit the golf ball well. That's why you want to learn it. You want to get better shots. You want to get the most out of the shot. And the four main things to that are distance, trajectory, direction, and curvature.
Yeah.
And all of these, and that's with a golf shot. When you see one, you get all those fundamentals in place, you will get the best out of all four of them. If you don't, if one isn't right, it will affect one or the other.
So do you try and do that through more block practice to start with, or?
So, depending on the person I'm teaching, of course, if they're a complete beginner, I teach them the fundamentals first. If they've never hit a golf ball before, you've got to get them right first up.
So is that through so just really blocking that skill and doing like a real high repetition of that one particular skill? Is that the way you do it to start with?
Yeah, so when you get them in place, you get them set and loaded, ready to go, basically, and then you hit them from there. Other guys, what we do, we look at in terms of not so much practice, but the teaching is like hole and close.
Yeah.
So like hole is like you look at the whole picture first. That's why you look at the whole swing. Then you close it down and look at what area is wrong. With guys who are half deep, for example, they say, "Oh, your grip's not quite right. Let's work on that this week," and then keep that closed process for the majority of the lesson, and go back again and see what the whole picture will be.
As well, you just spoken as well about focusing on your work on some maybe things that you're not doing particularly well. Do you do you encourage working on your strengths as well as an athlete?
Yeah, golf is a tough enough sport as it is. Unfortunately, there's a lot of different areas to it. Yes, you want to see them hit good golf shots, and that's great and all. But where you're improving golf is working on the weaknesses or working on the areas you're not so good at. Okay. It's all well and good hitting the shot you know you can hit, but you want to work on the areas you don't, because how are you going to improve if you don't know how good you are at that area? So I would always, it's hard work, unfortunately. This is the key you've got to understand as well. Practice and training are two different things, in my understanding. Now, you can't say about purposeful practice, that's more training. But practicing golf is hitting 100 balls, let's say, with each different club, at different distances. Training is where you are working on your areas where you're struggling. And that's where your purposefulness comes into it.
So that's funny enough, that is our next question we're going into now. So for me at the minute, the book I'm currently reading is Bounce by Matthew Syed. I suppose that for all the coaches watching this, something I definitely would encourage is make sure that you've always got a book or a podcast or something like that. You constantly, you've got something you're constantly reading. So if you're constantly reading, you're constantly learning, and it means that as a coach you can be, constantly changing and developing your coaching, which then means you're also going to be helping out the players that you're working with. But going back to this book, so in Bounce, there's a chapter I've just covered, and they talk about, well, funny enough, the example was Tiger Woods from golf, and talking about purposeful practice. So I suppose that for you, what does purposeful practice look like for you, and why do you think it might be important, particularly in golf?
Yeah, so sorry, I've just highlighted that a little bit before, but basically, with purposeful practice, to me, I class it as training, but basically in the sense that if there is something that you need to improve in your game for golf that's urgent or drastic, and you see the shots aren't working the way you want them to, the training element comes in. It's not about hitting full swings and going at it and just trying to freewheel it. It's about being concise with your training and working on it. So basically, it's very slow, methodical. It's pretty painful, it sounds, to be fair, because it sounds quite boring. I want to hit a ball as far as I can. Why do I have to go for this rubbish to do it? It's to train your muscle memory for golf, especially muscle memory is very important in golf, because essentially golf is like a baseball swing. It's just that spine angles down that way, but your body isn't going to know that. You've got to train in the right muscle movements to keep them in check, and obviously make sure you're doing the right things. I mean, there's a lot of different books out there with golf as well. Stevie's quite one. I mean, one theory, I'm not sure who the guy is, but he believes in the 10,000 hours training.
I think that's Ericsson's 10,000 hours.
Yeah,
I believe.
So as Stevie said, Ericsson's 10,000 hours. But the 10,000 hours theory is about doing purposeful practice and training. So you can, from scratch to end, you can become professional at anything. But within those 10,000 hours, you can't just practice meaningless stuff like stuff you're already good at. You've got to practice the bad stuff or hard stuff.
So I suppose that for those of you watching this who might be unclear on what purposeful practice is, to put it into rugby context, so you'll see a kicker in rugby, a place kicker, and what I tend to see a lot of in the rugby world is they'll be just, they might rock up at the park and they'll just practice kicks over and over and over again. So what might make this purposeful practice, instead of just a block practice, would be getting your heart rate up. So the example I use from a basketball before you take a free throw is, you might go for you might sprint the length of the field and then line up your kick and take it. So the way in which that becomes purposeful practice is if I'm just standing there and I'm practicing the same conversion over and over again, well, my heart rate's probably going to be pretty low. Whereas you think in a game, in a rugby game, you're constantly running around, you're constantly doing things that actually, when you go to take a kick, your heart rate's going to still be pretty high because you've just been running around playing rugby. So that's just one way in which you can make your practice within rugby more purposeful, particularly for those who work with kickers, is through getting the heart rate up before they take every kick, because that way, as you said, when it goes into a game, it will be linked a lot clearer to what they'll be doing. I suppose there anything else from you there on purposeful practice?
Yeah, I had to say with situational stuff like Stevie said there as well. I think the best thing you can do, I mean, in golf, unfortunately with golf, there's so many different areas. It's not just one area. I've just been talking about one area. You've got fast hitting the ball. I mean, you've got the short game, you've got putting, you've got chipping, you've got all sorts of other areas you need to consider, and plus that's not including what happens out there, so the variables like the weather and things like that. But like anything in golf, if you are going well and things like that, it's just about putting yourself in that position as much as you can.
Yeah.
And as you say, Steve, you're trying to make it as realistic as possible. Nothing ever beats the real thing, unfortunately, because it is the real thing. There's so much more meaning to it. But putting yourself in an area where you can prepare as near enough as you can, it can't hurt, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was looking into now. So for you, as Sam, the pro golfer, what is the one thing, or maybe one or two things? So what's the thing that you feel keeps you at the top of your game from a performance point of view?
So playing tournaments and things like that, there isn't too many at this moment in time because obviously the weather, we've had most of them cancelled. But let's say I'm preparing for a tournament, I'll probably look at about 6 weeks out. I'm very blessed. Unfortunately, I've got this lovely swing studio I can use anytime I like. So I can hit balls down here and work on different things I feel I need to mix in the purposeful practice and practice itself. Obviously, I've got a golf course I work on, so I can just go out there and play. Depending on the golf course I play, for example, if I have to play a golf course where there's no trees, which means it's very exposed, I might in that 6 weeks work on trying to lower the ball flight. Yep. Make it more realistic for what's going to happen there, because very rarely do you have a calm day on a golf course with no trees. So you look at different things like depending where you play and things like that to plan purposely. And nothing beats, like I said before, is being in the moment. So playing as many competitions as I can, that keeps you in that jet stream of all the other players. I'm at a slight disadvantage to a lot of pros, unfortunately, in that I work 6 days a week, and some of the guys I compete against work 1. Yeah. So the other 6, they're playing, practicing, doing everything they can. Yeah. But play as much as you can and just get that feel like you're a part of it. So don't feel like you're the odd one out. Yeah. Make you feel like, I'm here to win it, guys.
And I really like those what you've spoken about from the environmental factors. So for those of you again linking it back to the rugby world, just especially with the weather at the minute in the UK. But if you think next time you rock up to play a game, and maybe your style of rugby might be very much kicking based territory, or it could be very much ball in hand, but then you've got absolutely torrential rain downpour, or you've got these gusts of wind that keep on affecting the game. How might you want to try and change the way in which your team's playing or what they're doing in order to maybe help benefit performance a little bit more in that particular environment? Okay, so something to think about there. And then moving on to, so before we go to our last question, which we want to finish off on, we've got 3 questions here that have been sent in from some of the followers of the page. So question number 1 comes from John Inglefoot. And for him, he's talking about with young athletes, particularly in golf where it's very much a technical sport, how do you keep it fun for them? How do you keep them engaged in sessions?
So with my junior coaching that I do, it varies within the groups. For example, I have beginner group and they age between 5 and 9, and then I have another group which are a bit better and play a bit more golf, and they're sort of 9 to about 16. So I get about 8 or 9 in each group, varied each time depending on who wants to be brave enough to go out there and weather, and vice versa. It's different things. There's a lot of different games I do with the younger group, so you just got to keep mixing it up and keep it fresh each week. So I just say, let's say we're doing long game one week, say, okay guys, there's a flat 50-yard flag out there. In those 10 shots, how many of you get between that and another target? I'll say another area of targets. And then the week after, we'll do a putting comp and then do some scorecards, make it fun, let's make it competitive. And then another week I'll do a short game. You just got to keep mixing up each time, and nothing beats keep researching new games. I mean, we're all learning as coaches, we're not the final article. We just got to keep progressing and finding new ways to make ourselves better.
Yeah, I really like that answer. So I suppose 2 things that you guys can take away from that. Firstly, is keep changing up what you're doing. You know, if players are coming into new environments constantly, engagement level is going to be pretty high, as long as bringing it into the second point is competitive. You know, everybody wants to compete, you know, they want to have the chance or the opportunity to win at things, and if you can create a competitive environment that's something different to what they've done before, but ultimately it's something which, you know, particularly for kids as well, they can have fun in, then you're creating, you know, some of the best possible environments for kids to be in. Question number 2 comes in from Ollie Foster. After a poor shot, how do you get back your focus?
So, process, I've done golf long enough now, so what's it been, 13 years now, and I've sort of learned over time, and it's easy for beginners, that the problem is what they do is, when they hit a bad shot, they think, oh, here we go, toys out of the pram, tantrums everywhere, kicking everything inside, and they're stressed and frustrated, their body's not relaxed and calm, and when they get to the next shot, they make it worse. And one of the worst things in golf you can do is compound an error with another. So in those situations, what I try and do for myself, but it takes time for people and everyone's different, is once I've hit that bad shot, I just tell myself, it's done now, you've hit it, you can't do anything about it. You go to that next shot and play it. But let's say you've hit a bad shot and it's off the planet bad, and you're in a water hazard and you've got to take a drop, so you think, oh no, this is a disaster or whatever. Don't rush up and be like, oh come on, we've got to get this sorted. Nice and slow, take your deep breaths, clear your mind, have a process to it all. Don't rush into everything. You've got to be nice and calm and things. If you hit a bad shot, you hit a bad shot. It's not the end of the world. It's just you can't make it worse. Then the next shot's the more important one, because if you mess that up as well, then all of a sudden, from a good round you could have, for example, it can be an absolute disaster. And your head's down like that, and it's spiraling. So you just got to take a step back sometimes and just be calm. Breathing is quite important. Very, you know, how you breathe is key as well. And just take your time.
How do you breathe?
So there's a few different theories. What actually happens is if you breathe quicker, it actually raises your heart rate. Which is the last thing you want in that situation. So what you do is just inhale deeply and then exhale longer. It slows your heart rate down. It keeps you calmer. So in and then exhale longer. It slows it all down.
Maybe a little breathing technique for you guys watching this that you can take away from there.
Good impression.
Your players. Finally, our third question, requested question coming in from Max Richards. Who is your biggest influence and why?
So, growing up in golf, from the year I was born and watching him, is the big man, Tiger Woods. Like for everyone out there, everyone my age especially. I mean, it's many things that Tiger's incredible for. It's just like all the records he's broke. I mean, if you look at every stat out there, he's pretty much number one in everything out there. Every record you can think of achieving, things like that. What I find him more impressive with him, actually, is not like all the wins of that's incredible in itself, but it's just how he's dealt with it in the environment he's been in. I mean, media's so big, they all want to beat of you. In the days where people like Jack Nicklaus and viewers might know who were not in that area, people wanted a bit of him, but not like it is now. They're constantly at him, and he's had to deal with that. And then obviously on top of the things he's done in the past and some indiscretions and things like that. But he's still come back a stronger athlete, and he can still win out there. That's pretty incredible to me. And now he's tied for the most wins on tour, and only a couple of majors away from overtaking Jack Nicklaus and becoming probably the best player of all time, if not a few more years.
I suppose is trying to be able to control or deal with the environment, not just on the pitch, but also off it as well. You know, particularly for if we've got any coaches out there who are working with more elite level athletes, say in academies and that, maybe starting to think about how do you prep them, not just be able to, as I said, deal with what they're going to be facing on the pitch, but also obviously the higher up you play, the more fame, the more recognised, the more media there is out there. So how can you guys work with them to help protect them from that environment and from the hazards of it, but you know, also prepare them for it, and you know, but make sure that they can cope with that in a way that will still help them, you know, to focus, more importantly, what's going on the pitch. Right, moving us into our final question of the interview now. So just literally 3 things from you as a coach. What are your 3 top tips for coaching skill? So how do you coach skill? What's the 3 main things you keep in mind?
So through quite a few lessons I've done now and experience like that, I would say anything you're trying to teach, take your time, because you're not going to get it straight away. And one famous coach, Butch Hartman, said, "I ruined the first 10 hours lessons I ever did." And he's the best coach in the world.
Yeah.
So no one's ever perfect, they're not going to get straight away. So just take your time, think about what you've learned, get it in there, and then, you know, hopefully you'll correct the situation depending on what the golfer's doing. Keep learning, I'll say as well. You've got to keep reading up. I think things are ever changing. So, you know, I'm not saying completely change the book and change someone's technique just because someone said so. But just pick up ideas and things like that. Just think about where things are heading. I mean, the furthest thing that golf's ever done is the technology, both the ball and the clubs. I mean, they bomb it out there for fun now until it's, you know, but how do you make them players better and keep the technique and keep all those things moving along nice and smoothly? And I guess as well, enjoy it. I mean, you've got to want to love being a coach, you know, I want to love helping people, I would say. That's the main thing, you know. If you don't want to do it, then you're not in the right job.
Absolutely.
So, there we go.
Perfect. Well, Sam, thank you very much. Guys watching it, I hope that you enjoyed today. Obviously, you know, please give us a like, please share it. I think the really big thing, you know, looking earlier on as well, is that this page is starting to get likes and it's starting to get shares around the world. And I think that, you know, the main reason that I've set up this page is, you know, to give back and to help coaches, particularly for those in, you know, environments where they might not have the resources that we have here, you know, to help keep them learning as well, which is one of your key points there. So please give us a follow on. So at Facebook it's at SBW_coaching, Instagram is SBW_coaching, YouTube Stevie Warr, and Facebook, sorry, no, not Facebook, LinkedIn Stevie Warr as well. So again guys, very big thank you today for watching this and sharing it if you do, and until next time I hope you have a great next session. Okay, goodbye.
Thank you.